Well, folks, I found one. In today's episode, we gathering stuff from the garden: squash and okra, cornmeal flour crust. You ain't gonna want to miss this. I'm getting the grease hot. Come on. Hey, thank y'all for stopping by the garden today for another episode of Cowboy Cooking. Yep, I'm Kent Rollins, and ain't this garden looking good? The good Lord has blessed us with some rain. Now, for all you new viewers that are out there just joining us for the first time, hey, we're going to get to that wagon, but you don't want to miss any of this stuff, so be sure you hit that subscribe button right off at the top, and you won't miss none of these great recipes. I'm going to pick us up some squash and some okra, then we're going to head out there to the wagon. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks how I think it fries up best on our version of a southern traditional style to cook squash and okra. Now, okra's sort of like looking for Easter eggs. You can tell this stuff is pretty green, and you got to look hard to find it, don't you, Duke? So let me look down in here. Oh, that in there is about the right size I like to try to start eating. You can get them a little bigger than that. Can you see him moving down there?
Yeah.
And just take your knife and just cut him off right there below the stem. That is what I call a tender piece of okra. Well, you can see them are pretty well uniform inside, except this in here is a little bigger than the rest. Now, he'll still eat, but he's getting a little tougher. I want to just see when you cut him, he still cuts pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this feller. And there's different types of okra you can plant. I like to cook the spineless. It don't get hardly as tough as the other. What goes good with fried okra besides a fork? Some good old yellow squash. How many of y'all got some squash plants? Now, I'm gonna tell you, I thought, you know, me and Shan love some squash, but you can see squash has took over the whole place. Squash multiplies faster than rabbits, it does. I'm fitting to find me some of them good tender yellow crooknecks in here, and we gonna fry them up. We hit the jackpot, Shan. Let me put him in here with them okras. Now, this is sort of pushing the limit on how big I like to let them get. These are different than zucchinis. I sort of like them about this size, but I'm gonna find me one little more tender one in here. There we go. That's about the size I really like to eat. They tender, they really good. Well, we got our squash and our okra picked. Let's get them washed up, and I'll meet y'all at the wagon. They gonna be some of that good. I washed all this okra really well, and I let it dry really well. Now, when you get them little pods of okra, I want you to go ahead and see this little stem of this here that's on here, than these little here. Make sure when you pull that up there to cut it that you get them behind what you're cutting and you get rid of them. And then I want you to cut just a little off this tip. Now, when you cut them, I like to try to keep them about 1/4 of an inch, pretty close to that. Now you can see them slice, ooh, so tender. And we're gonna leave them setting right out here, because when you go to frying okra, or cutting it up, pardon me, you need to cut it ahead of time. I like to let it sweat just a little, and then let it set for about maybe 2 to 3 minutes, because I think you can see this one when Shannon zooms in here. They'll have some slime. Did you see that sort of slimy stuff in there? We need to let that sort of dry out a little. We've got us about 4 cups of this cut okra, and we got it all the same size, fairly close, because you get a better frying time, more even that way. So go ahead and put your cut up okra in a little mixing bowl. See what I'm talking about? It's got a little that sticky adhesive to it. Holds that there crust and all that flavor better. And we have a break in the action because Kent has got to get the buttermilk. What is it? Cow juice made into buttermilk. Now, a lot of people are going to be doing this with eggs and buttermilk, and you dip it all in there and let it soak and put it out and run it through there. That's not the way we sort of done her at home. Most of the time we would just take a drizzling of buttermilk, which is probably for about 4 cups of okra, a little less than 1/4 of a cup. It don't take much. We're just going to make sure that everybody gets some of that buttermilk on them. We ain't drowning them in it. About 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Go ahead and run her in there. And we're going to mix it all up again. Now, if you get to this point, that flour and that buttermilk will be sticking to each other really well, but you want to make sure that that okra gets some of that coating on it too. About 3/4 cup of cornmeal. Now, when I used to cook this on some ranches, I would use that cornmeal mix that had a little baking powder and salt and everything already in it. But this is just plain cornmeal. We're going to mix it right in. It'll sort of dry this stuff out to where everybody is on their own and not sticking together so much. We want to give it a little more pop. So I like to do it this way. 2 tablespoons. Go ahead and give it a little shake around there. It's better than just pouring it all in there, and that way somebody don't get some. This way you're making sure everybody gets some of this. Well, we got them all ready to go. We got our Finex Dutch oven, got about 3 inches deep of, what are we using today? Oil? Peanut oil, good frying oil. Now, if you ain't got no peanut oil, or you have one of them allergies to peanut oil, get you any good fry oil that's going to have a great temperature to it that ain't going to smoke, because we're going to run about 350 most of the time. Takes about 2 or 3 minutes for this to fry up. You got to remember, we're not putting big batches in there at a time. That way you get a more even fry. Everything comes out crispy just right. You got one of these, you're going to need one. Because I be telling you, this little trick right here will help that grease last longer without anything getting all burned up. Give it a good shaking, and you can see how many I got in there, about a half a strainer full. Just dump them right in there and let the frying commence while we do the frying, hopping around song. But let's talk about this. You see that okra sometimes you get in them restaurants, you buy it, it's got that big old thick coat, and that little piece of okra becomes about this big around. Because when you bite into it, you lost all the taste of the okra. You're just getting the breading. You're going to have to give them a little stir in here, there, and yonder. We're going to pull them out. We're going to put them in something that is warm, and that is a Dutch oven today. But guess what the Beagle didn't bring? The Beagle didn't bring no paper towels. So we're going to run them back through here, get most of the grease off of them, dump them in this, and then we're going to season them. This is some fine dining. See how that crust is on there? So many times when you go to them stores and they got all that, it's just covered all up. You just got a gummy mess. Now you see me when I drug that out of there, strained that grease off of it just a little, dump her in there, season right then. Don't wait no longer. And season to your seating. Suiting? Yes, suiting. That way you get it to what you want. Try your bite after you season it. Mix it up a little. If you don't like it, needs a little more seasoning, put some more on it. But listen to this crunch. Y'all seen me pick that we're fixing to cook up too? Some fried squash. So let's get it done while that okra is cooling off. It won't take that squash long to fry. And then we're going to have us a smorgasbord.
Board?
Smorgasborgus.
Smorgasbord.
Smorgasbord. Now that's when you eat board. It's a smorgasbord.
I don't know, what is it? B-O-R-G. Oh, it's smorgasbord?
Smorgasbord.
I didn't know that.
Not smorgasbord.
I thought it was board. Okay.
Well, folks, I
think it's smorgasbord.
we're gonna have a smorgasbord for Shan, and we're gonna cut up that table over there where she can eat on it. Looky here at this little crook neck. Cut that off of him right there, cause we don't be needing that. Throw him right out yonder. Now you don't want to get these too thick. I like to go a little less than 1/4 of an inch maybe, or pretty close to that shape. These here are a crook neck on them, so you have different sizes of product. You do. I like to keep them separate, and that way they fry up at the same. Now, these little ones will fry in one batch. These will fry in probably 2 batches because they're bigger. We're going to start off with a cup of flour. And there is no cornmeal in this, fellers. We were going to put about maybe nearly a tablespoon of Red River Ranch Original. Now, if you don't have it, you can get them. Shan will have you a link. But if you need to fry this up today, just use you some salt and pepper. It will work well. Again, we're going to go right with the 2 tablespoons of bacon. That ain't bacon. That is cornstarch, Shan. Let's put these little ones in there first. Make sure they're all spread out. You don't want them to stick together, and that way nobody gets no coating. So get you some in there. Make sure everybody is really coated well. We're going to get the oil hot and we're going to fry them up. I like to do these the same way we did that okra because it's going to make your grease last longer. You don't be burning that flour in the bottom. So let's put them over in that sifter. So this is all the little ones that we had. We'll give them a little shaking. Get the excess off of them. In the grease they go and say fry. That is what I'd call a good piece of squash fried up. Now, sure, you could coat it in that buttermilk like I did. You could even dip it in milk and egg or anything like that and get you some of this right here. But I like to taste the squash with just a light breading on it. That's why we made it this way. It's not going to be that great crunch you get with that okra, but you're going to taste the squash.
That did have a good crunch.
That one did. We'll have to eat another one. So you can see that's not got that crunch. I don't like to over fry squash so much. I just want it to where it's good and tender because to me that's the flavor of that squash, and just don't get no better with that. Combine it with the okra. Hey, I might be nearly vegetarian today. Get my hair slicked back because this is the squash and okra dance. You got to be smooth, but you got to have a little crispness to it right at the end because that's what it's about. That's how I really like my squash. They got the flavor of that coating on them, but they still got that great texture that just right cooked that squash has. I'm not going to eat this one because it's hot. Just like the okra, when we took the squash out, be sure you season to your suiting. I have fried a lot of them together. You've seen us do it separate over there, but so many times these little okras might get done before these little squashes. But if you want to do them together, I recommend you pan fry them in a skillet with just a little bitty coating of oil, and they'll get done about the same time. You stir them all up together and mix them. We thank y'all so much for stopping by camp, and we are so glad we over that 600,000 mark, and that's due to y'all. Y'all got that possible, not me and Shan. It was y'all that done it, and we appreciate it. Hey, I've been a little slow on the comments, but when you're getting 4,500 of them on a video, it takes me a while. I want to thank y'all for keeping it positive, for reinforcing, but also for reaching out to each other and carrying on conversation, because that's what this is about. And if you got a negative comment, you won't be on there long. And remember what Mr. Rogers said, be a good neighbor. Share, like, and subscribe to the videos, and share the food with everybody. As usual, I tip my hat to the servicemen and women and all the veterans who have kept this country so safe and free, and that flag flies over camp wherever I'm at. I appreciate y'all, and God bless you each and every one. So remember, it is a great day above the grass, especially if it is in the garden and you're getting to eat these. So I'm going to see you down the fried okra and squash trail. So long. Say, the Stargazer skillet deal that we was giving away just recently, guess who won? It was John Henderson III. Whew, you're going to love that skillet, my friend. And all of y'all been asking, where did Marmaduke find a home? Well, guess what, folks? We woke up one morning, he wrote me and Shan a letter, said I want to live with y'all, so I guess he's stuck with us. The beak is a little unsure, but we're going to break him in right. You'll see him in a lot of videos to come. Marmaduke the Wonder Dog.